I am honored to be invited by the Director General of FAO and the Chairperson of CFS to virtually join this CFS special event today under the title The Impacts of COVID-19 on Rural Women Food Producers. Efforts toward recovery in the food production sector and measures aimed at strengthening resilience against future health and climate crisis. And I thank very much IFAD for leading it. As FAO Special Ambassador for Zero Hunger and WFP Goodwill Ambassador for the School Feeding Program, the CFS is the ideal context to reiterate my commitment to food security and nutrition and to the achievement of SDGs by 2030. In fact, advancing gender equality and women's and girls' empowerment is critical to achieving CFS vision of ending hunger and ensuring food security and nutrition for all, and for the progressive realization of the right to adequate food in the context of national food security. Today's theme immediately reminds us of the centrality of women's role with respect to food production, health, and climate crisis. As IFAD and other RBA's reports constantly remind us, rural women and girls make up 1/4 of the global population. Yet they routinely figure at the bottom of every economic, social, and political indicator, from income, education, and health to participation in decision-making. They perform most of the unpaid care work in rural areas, and they are a major part of the agricultural labor force. Despite the evidence of the data, there is still not full recognition on that rural women are incredible active agents of economic and social change and environmental protection, notwithstanding being in many ways and to various degrees constrained in their roles as farmers, producers, investors, caregivers, and consumers. They play crucial roles ensuring food and nutrition security, eradicating rural poverty, and improving the well-being of their families, but continue to face serious challenges as a result of gender-based stereotypes and discrimination that deny them equitable access to opportunities, resources, assets, and services. Recent statistics outlines how women and girls are disadvantaged in this pandemic, a problem aggravated in rural areas where rural women already face struggles in their daily lives now since COVID-19 and their unique health needs in remote areas. They are less likely to have access to quality health services, essential medicines and vaccines. Restrictive social norms and gender stereotypes can also limit rural women's ability to access health services. Furthermore, a lot of rural women suffer from isolation as well as the spread of misinformation and a lack of access to critical technologies to improve their work and personal life. I have always believed that education is a priority, and I constantly worked to promote it as a basis for development. Education is also the best tool to increase our resilience capacity because it enables us to face challenges and often with innovative solutions. Food security has worsened, and COVID has limited access to education and school feeding programs. This has left a mark on the lives of youth, especially girls, and precisely when education and better nutrition are most needed, the lack determines a decrease in resilience's potential of younger generation. Therefore, we need to do even more to compensate for this gap. In a recent speech, I recall the promise we made to ourselves. Indeed, the world promised itself that by 2030 we should reach the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, gender equality and women's and girls' empowerment are essential to achieving all the SDGs of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, as well as ensuring food systems that are economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable. In fact, gender equality and women's and girls' empowerment are not only fundamental to the realization of human rights, they are also essential for poverty reduction, economic growth, sustainable national resource management, mitigating and adapting to climate change, protecting ecosystems, and conserving biodiversity. Empowerment women is one of the most effective ways to improve nutrition outcomes not only of women but of all family members, lowering infant mortality and reducing child malnutrition, thereby helping to break intergenerational cycles of malnutrition, with special attention to the nutritional needs of pregnant and breastfeeding women. Countries where women lack land ownership rights or access to credit have significantly more malnourished children. Discrimination against women and girls, pervasive gender inequality, and exposure to violence result in unequal access to food, with higher prevalence of food insecurity and malnutrition among women and girls. Rural girls face the triple disadvantage of isolation, gender, and age. Recalling the title of this event, I definitively consider the measures for gender equality and women's empowerment among the best measures aimed at strengthening resilience against future health and climate crisis. And if there were anyone who still has doubts about where to direct our efforts, rural women and girls are our best asset to invest in. They are the ones that give the greatest return on investment, primarily for their multiple roles in society. Ensuring gender equality and supporting women's empowerment are not only moral imperatives, but essential driving force for our nation's development. This smart investment requires common efforts to ensuring adequate financial, technical, and human resources, supported by political commitment and public policies that promote an enabling environment to generate social, economic, and cultural changes with specific and gender-responsive policies, programs, and institutions. It implies promoting effective multi-stakeholder collaboration and partnership in food systems, and the Committee on World Food Security is the best platform to guide countries in their work on this. In this sense, I welcome the CFS policy convergence process to develop the voluntary guidelines on gender equality and women's empowerment. in the context of food security and nutrition. The objective of the guidelines is to support member states, development partners, and other stakeholders to advance gender equality, women's and girls' rights, the empowerment as part of their effort to eradicate hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition, towards the progressive realization of the right to adequate food in the context of national food security. I invite all member countries to contribute and actively participate in the development and future adoption of the voluntary guidelines by giving priority to gender equality and empowerment in their respective political agendas, so that these guidelines can be implemented and perform their function to support women and girls in their fundamental role of change and development of our societies. We promised to leave no one behind, so we should keep our promises. The challenges to be faced have increased. COVID-19 has impacted the limited progress that has been made on gender equality and women's rights. We must do better. It is a question of fundamental rights. We have made a commitment and we must keep it. We owe it to our mothers, our sisters, our daughters. We owe it to our future generations and to our society as a whole. Thank you.